Tonight, Sal Pal on Cup and Nakua versus Slay and Mitchell. Some good, bad, and the ugly from Week 11. Greg Meacham from the Southern California Associated Press will talk to us about how the Rams could try and shut down the Eagles' attack. And Bill Reinhard and Sean Green have your start, sits, props, and picks. It's all right now on a Week 12 edition of This Week in Pro Football.
It's time for This Week in Pro Football, a deep dive into the key issues and marquee matchups in the National Football League. For the next 60 minutes, we invite you to sit back or lean in with host Pat Callahan as we preview the week's Eagles matchup, big games, breaking stories, and all news NFL. It's This Week in Pro Football, right now on JAKIB Media Sports.
Hello, everyone. Pat Callahan joining you here on JAKIB Sports for week number 12 of This Week in Pro Football. Thank you very much for joining me. I look forward to spending the next 80 minutes or so with you as we talk about Week 12 in the National Football League. Couple programming notes. The show is premiering on Wednesdays from now on here on JAKIB at 6 p.m., so please make a note of that. If you want to join us for the premiere, it gives you an extra 24 hours to check out the show before the week's games actually begin. And second note is next week, Thanksgiving week, will be on Tuesday night at 6 p.m. here to get you set for a less than stellar Thanksgiving weekend, Thanksgiving Day, I should say, of football. The night game's not that bad. Green Bay hosting Miami, but as you sit down to Thanksgiving dinner, you'll be joined by Tommy DeVito and Cooper Rush. So make sure the dinner is well cooked. All right. Thanks again for joining me here. We have most of the usual suspects here. The great Sal Paolantonio will join me in just a minute. I have a ton of things to go through with Sal. I'm going to have somebody different on this time from way out in SoCal, and that's Greg Meacham from the Southern Cal Associated Press. And we'll talk some Rams football. Don't hear a lot about those NFC West teams here in the Philadelphia area. So the Eagles making their second longest trip of the year after that trek to Brazil. And, of course, Bill Reinhard will join me for some fantasy at the bottom of the hour, and then Sean Green. So how about we get started here, bringing this gentleman on, of course, the host of the NFL Matchup Show and the author of How Football Explains America, and that's Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how you doing, pal?
Oh, Pat, I'm doing great. Love Wednesdays, Pat. Wednesdays on This Week in Pro Football. What's the promo say? You got to sit back or you got to lean in.
Sit back or lean in.
Come on.
Sit back or lean in, okay?
Yeah, Wednesday is a sit back or lean in day. You go either way, Pat, but you always got to have This Week in Pro Football.
Thank you very much, pal. The viewers can sit back. I need you to lean in. So, by the way, let's start with this. Congratulations. The induction went well into the Italian-American Hall of Fame.
Yes, the National Italian-American Sports Hall of Fame. We had Chicago does it big, Pat. 850 people, a Sinatra sing-along. Tony Orlando was there and had a sing-along with the audience, untie a yellow ribbon, made my wife Lynn and I tear up. It was a beautiful evening. 3 tenors sang the national anthem, and Mike Fratello was there. And the big thing was Jim Porter from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the chairman of the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, was my presenter, presented the hall in Chicago with a crystal football and a nice donation from the hall in Canton. Nice. So thank you to Jim Porter for making it a special night.
All right. Well, congratulations to you. And since I brought up the Hall of Fame, there's just one little debate I wanted to have. Xander and I, my producer, were going back and forth. The final 25 list came out. And, of course, you all know Sal is one of the voters. Very prestigious. Is it still 45, Sal? Is that the number?
It's a movable feast, Pat, but I think it's 46 right now.
Okay,
I think it's 46.
Yeah, 40, one of only 46 in the nation who gets to decide who goes in the Hall of Fame. And I see there's only one quarterback up on the list, Sal, this year, and that's Eli Manning. All right. And I appear to be of a minority opinion, which is he does not belong as a first ballot Hall of Famer. What is your take?
Well, Pat, first of all, he belongs in the Hall of Fame. The question is he a first ballot Hall of Famer? And I think the answer to that is yes. There are only 5 guys who have 2 Super Bowl MVPs. They are the great Bart Starr, Terry Bradshaw, Joe Montana, they're all in the Hall of Fame. Tom
Right.
Brady, he's going in, and Eli Manning, and they were all first ballot Hall of Famers. And I think Eli is in that exclusive club. And I think I have talked to you about this once before. When I was on the Centennial Selection Committee in 2020, I sat a couple of seats down from Bill Belichick. He was on the committee with John Madden, the great John Clayton, and Ron Wolf and Bill Polian, and we had an all-star cast. And Belichick, of course, when he talked, the room listened. And we asked him, what is his criteria for the Hall of Fame? And he said, how does that player or coach perform in the critical moments against championship competition? And Eli Manning passes that test against Bill Belichick's teams twice in the Super Bowl.
All right. I mean, my contra to you is that what it tells you then is that regular season games don't mean a thing. I mean, 117 times out of 234 games, he did not pass the test. He just doesn't even have a winning career record. 1.5 touchdowns for every interception he threw. That is not a Hall of Fame resume. It's not. And on what you're saying is, and what Xander was saying, then tells me that Nick Foles is one MVP away from being in the Hall of Fame. And
I agree with that. I agree. I agree with Xander. I think Nick Foles, it's like Jim Plunkett. Jim Plunkett, to me, is a Hall of Famer. He's not in. He's not a first ballot, but he's got 2 rings, and he should go in. Absolutely. And the regular season does matter, but if you're just going to count statistics, you might as well get Deloitte and Touche in the room. They could do the job.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm ambivalent about it. I don't think in any way he's first ballot, but he's going in. He's going in first ballot. There's no question he's going to make it. He's the only quarterback for no other reason. So the quarterbacks always elbow their way in first. But it's an interesting debate, but I think you're going to win it. So, all right, Sal, how about we do a little good, bad, and the ugly here? Xander, if you'll do me a favor, bring up those standings here. I could take Sal through my good, bad, and the ugly. And Sal, give me your rapid fire comment here. The good, Sal, week 11, Buffalo hold serve against Kansas City. You and I talked about this last week, 30-21. Buffalo is still now in the running for that number 1 seed in the AFC.
And they needed a miraculous play from their quarterback to do it. That's the way those games between the Bills and the Chiefs go. I don't know if they're going to make it. I just don't know.
Right. Sal, I've been talking about this really all season about Joe Mixon. I laugh at the way the Cincinnati Bengals play offense, Sal, where they throw the ball 19 out of 20 times. And here's a guy who is just tearing it up now for the Texans, who go down to Dallas and just smack the Cowboys right in the mouth. Of course, that's not hard to do in Dallas, is it?
No, but you're right about Joe Mixon. We said on the NFL matchup show early on, when Joe Mixon is healthy, the Texans are a real problem for the rest of the AFC. Yes, absolutely.
Yep. And the Steelers hold serve. Sal, your thoughts on that game and Derrick Henry not touching the ball in the fourth quarter? I'm not quite sure how that works with Todd Monken, but we'll save that for the bad. The Steelers get to 8-2. How surprised are you at that?
I'm very surprised, especially when you change quarterbacks in the middle of the stream like they did from Justin Fields to Russell Wilson. Though they did that, I still believe that if they're going to be ultimately successful, they need a package of plays for Justin Fields. They need opportunities for Justin Fields to touch the ball on third down and in the red zone. And I think that will open things up for a lot of the rest of the offensive players. They didn't score a touchdown against the Ravens.
Right.
The Steelers defense shut down the Ravens. That was at Heinz Field or Acrisure Field. But I'm not sure about that Pittsburgh offense being able to handle a late playoff run. Pat.
I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. On the flip side of that game, Sal, I teased it already. I don't understand it. You literally have a refrigerator on 2 legs, and he touches the ball 13 times in the game, none in the fourth quarter, and he's not on the field during a 2-point conversion from the 2-yard line. What the hell are the Ravens thinking here?
And Pat, you and I had a show right before the Super Bowl after the AFC Championship game last year, and we talked about the fact that the offensive staff and John Harbaugh deserves some of the responsibility. ignored the running game, and they got burned by Kansas City at home. The same thing happened, even though they got Derrick Henry. They did not learn their lesson. And if they don't learn their lesson, they will be one and done in the playoffs again.
I don't know. That's amazing, Sal. Because you're right. You think they would have learned it from earlier this year when he was trucking everybody. The other bad, Sal, 49ers lose at home to Seattle. Something, Sal, appears to be clearly missing in San Francisco. And it can't just be Brandon Ayuk. How do you see it?
Yeah, Pat, if you watch the Niners offense, Deebo Samuel and now Christian McCaffrey back, they're carrying everything. Teams are blanketing Kittle. They needed Ayuk because he is their deep threat. He opens things up underneath for all of those three players. And without him in the starting lineup, it's a big problem for them. I do, however, think they will go to Green Bay and beat the Packers.
Yeah, I think the Packers didn't make my bad list, but they're pulling out games. Jordan Love doesn't look nearly as good as he did last year. I think he's taken a step back. The ugly, those that I saw, Sal, I told you about the Atlanta Falcons. They are not ready to be any type of power broker in the NFC. They go out and get demolished by Denver.
And Pat, to circle back, the Eagles should have beat the Falcons and they'd be 9-1.
Yeah, exactly right.
Their only real loss this year is to Tampa.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, if Saquon holds on to the ball on the 5-yard line,
I know that's right.
They're 9-1, Pat. They're 9-1.
That's right, and then they'd be right there with Detroit for that 1 seed. Sal, the Jags mail it in against Detroit. That was an absolutely horrendous performance there against a team that loves to run it up on you.
Yeah, and I don't know whether we say good Detroit or really bad / ugly Jacksonville. Let's focus on the good, and that is Detroit offensively. And there's always a but, Pat. They've lost 2 now really good defensive players.
Right.
And they played a non-functioning football team in Jacksonville.
Right.
So let's see how they do
when
they play some teams that can actually score points.
All right. That's the good and bad and the ugly there from week number 11. When we get back here from a short break, Sal Pao is going to remain on. We're going to talk with Sal about the Eagles and the Los Angeles Rams. And the Eagles probably not. And I'm going to ask Sal, is this another home game for Philadelphia? And we're going to talk about an interesting matchup when the Rams have the ball. That's all next on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Auto.
Welcome back. We've got another exciting play underway at KennedyAuto.com.
That's right. At KennedyAuto.com, you can browse their entire inventory from home.
The customer is scrolling hundreds of Ford, Mazda, and Subaru vehicles right at his fingertips.
He made his selection and got a bottom line price set directly to his email. He could go all the way.
And the deal is good, all without leaving his couch. Incredible. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Discover the essence of true community banking with First Bank, your trusted partner across Eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Their network of branches brings you convenient access to dedicated personal bankers who understand your unique needs. At First Bank, you're not just a customer, you're a valued member of the community. Additionally, they are excited to announce the opening of 2 new branches in Media, Pennsylvania and Trenton, New Jersey, bringing their personalized banking services even closer to you. Connect with any member of the team today at their Westchester office, conveniently located at 849 Paoli Pike, or call them at 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Johnny Apple's restaurant and bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
All right, welcome back here this week in Pro Football, week number 12, Sal, in the National Football League. It is certainly flying by. And the Eagles now may take their second long trip of the year out to Los Angeles to face a 5-5 Rams team that's been very up and down. But before we get to that, Sal, you just mentioned before the break how the Eagles were one Saquon drop away from being 9-1. In the last 2 years under Nick Sirianni, the Eagles were 9-1. This year, they're only 8-2. And yet, it just seems, Sal, and you're way more in tune to the way the league thinks than I am. It just seems, though, Coach Sirianni does not get the type of respect that other coaches in the NFL get, despite his record. Can you just discuss that? What do you think it is that holds him back in that regard?
There is a perception about him that is just flat out wrong. And I guess some of it he has fed into. I think the turning point for a lot of people was when he was jawboning with the fans after the game in Cleveland. Some commentators called him a clown and this, that, and the other thing. And I went on your show, Pat, and I said, I don't like that. I don't like the name calling. You can say that he shouldn't be doing that, but let's not call him that.
Right.
Let's look at his record. Okay.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. He has a 42-19, 689 winning percentage, 8th best career mark in NFL history.
Yeah.
Ranked second among active head coaches, trailing only Jim Harbaugh. Highest winning percentage ever by an Eagles head coach. Under Nick Sirianni, the Eagles win 71% of their road games. Pat, that's unbelievable.
That is.
And they're 3-0 in their last 3 trips to LA against the Rams.
Yeah. Yep, that's impressive. He's got an impressive resume, and yet
I don't know. It's like crazy. It's insane because, listen, we go by this. You just were talking about Eli Manning's record,
right?
He's got a 500 record, so you're judging Eli on his record, and that's a good approach,
right?
I am not denying that,
right.
But let's judge Nick Sirianni on his record.
Yeah,
if we're going to do one, do to the other. You got to do.
I do.
You can't be double-sided about that.
No, I mean, he's vexing, vis-a-vis, for instance, a couple of weeks ago when he eschewed all those kicks and they barely beat Jacksonville. But at the same time, 9-1, 9-1, 8-2 to start the last 3 seasons.
Okay, well, that's different. I mean, we can be critical routinely about different decisions based on what we know about the game. For sure, we can do that. Intellectual critique is fine. But let's not name call Nick Sirianni because that's wrong.
Okay. All right. Sal, let's get to the game now. As I mentioned, the Rams started off very slowly, 1-4. They've won 4 of their last 5. They're back to 500. But I think this is a good matchup for Philadelphia. But let's concentrate on one in particular, and that is the Rams now have both of their receivers back, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and they were dominant last week against New England. How do you see that matchup, which is going to be a very important one? Those two guys stacking up against a real strength of the Eagles, and that's their cornerbacks, Slay and Mitchell.
Yeah, as Ron Jaworski used to say, this is where the rubber meets the road. So let's talk about Quinyon Mitchell first. Quinyon Mitchell is giving up 0.9 yards per pass play that comes at him. 0.9.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Pat, that is the best of any rookie quarterback ever since they have been starting using these next-gen stats.
Right.
So we remember Revis Island with Darrelle Revis.
Yep.
Well, this is the Q zone, it's like the Twilight Zone. In the Twilight Zone, people mysteriously disappeared on that show. Yeah. Rod Serling would come on and people would be gone, right? Mysteriously.
Yeah.
Well, wide receivers are mysteriously disappearing in the Q zone, the Quinyon Mitchell zone, except it's no mystery. He's got great length. He's got great closing speed. He's got great speed to keep up with wide receivers. He's got a great attitude. He's extremely tough. And I sent you the numbers before we went on the air. I hope you saw them because they're unbelievable, Pat.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull them up here really for me to do the justice. It's just insane. I'm going to read them. Versus Cleveland, 5 targets, 1 catch. Giants, 4 targets, 2 catches. Cincinnati, 3 targets, 3 catches. That's the best they've had. But that, of course, was Jamar Chase.
Right.
3 targets, 2 catches. 4 targets against Dallas, 2 catches. Washington Commanders, Terry McLaurin had 1 target, no catches, and Pat, 0 touchdowns. 0.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're both impressive. Slay has reached back, and he's playing very well too. But I think, but is it a little bit of a difference, Sal, this week in that the 2 Ram receivers have a physical, in terms of height and weight, a physical advantage over these 2 corners?
They have that. And I like Sean McVay's design. Constant motion, constant formation variation. He gets those guys on the move. That's what makes them difficult to cover.
Yeah.
They get a free release off the line of scrimmage because they're not static on the line of scrimmage. So this is it right here.
Yeah.
And the reason why the Eagles are playing so well defensively, it's on all 3 levels.
Yeah.
Right now, NFL.com has Quinyon Mitchell as the number 1 defensive rookie of the year candidate. Jared Verse, number 2. And number 3 is Cooper DeJean. The Eagles have 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And Reed Blankenship's playing well. But when you have a defensive secondary that has that kind of sticky coverage, and the quarterback like Matt Stafford has to hold the ball like he did against the Dolphins, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Now the pass rush is getting to him.
That's correct, because their offensive line is not strong. The Eagles now number 1 in the defense in the NFL, 273 yards a game. So I think the Eagles are going to win on that side of the ball, and I think, Sal, they win on the offensive side of the ball. I don't see it. I don't think the Rams front back 7 is ready for an A.J. Brown or a Dallas Goedert, even if Devonta Smith doesn't play, and he's iffy right now with a hamstring.
Well, if Smith doesn't play, that's an issue. There's no question about it, I think. The Eagles struggle for a lot of reasons at the beginning of games.
Yeah.
And, that's a whole segment, Pat. That's a whole show. But if you want the headline, it's whatever they're doing in practice, installing game plan-wise, is not computing properly with the offensive staff and with the players. And all of a sudden, what they see is not what they thought they were going to see.
Yeah.
They're not reading and reacting and changing things.
Well, they'll be comfortable Sunday night then, Sal, because they're playing a team which has been outscored by 50 points in the first quarter so far this year. Which
I don't know, Pat. I don't know.
And it'll be interesting. It's another home game too for Philly. I have no doubt the Eagles will be well represented.
I would venture to say there are more. I've been out there. You've been out there. You've seen what it's like.
Yeah.
I think there's more Eagles fans in Los Angeles County than there are Rams fans. I do. I'm not saying hyperbole. I think
it's impossible.
If you counted them, I think they would now. Dodgers, different story. Rams, no, I don't think so.
I think the NFL was in such a rush to get 2 teams out there. Meanwhile, it's a shame for the 2 teams because they're constantly on the road, even when they're at home. But all right, so I want to look around the league here for just a minute. I only have a couple minutes left with you. And I want to posit this to you, and I know you've always cautioned me over the years what the name of the show is, but I can't resist this one. Is there any doubt in your mind, Sal, that we're heading for a championship Sunday, Eagles, Lions, Bills, Chiefs?
Yeah, there's doubt, very little doubt, Pat. I think you're right you hit the nail on the head. You look at these 2 teams. Who's going to challenge the Lions other than the Eagles in the NFC?
Yep.
I don't see it. They're not going to be the Falcons. I don't think the Vikings have enough firepower offensively. They blitz. I mean, the way Brian Flores is blitzing, if you have a quarterback that reacts well to the blitz like Jalen Hurts, that's going to be a major, major issue.
Right.
Green Bay, from what I saw Green Bay last week in Chicago, Jordan Love is not the same. He's not moving the same. He's throwing interceptions in the red zone. I don't see it. As for the AFC, wow. I think the dark horse is the Chargers.
Yeah. How about that? Yep. I mean,
they're number 1 in the league in points allowed, Pat.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're number 1 in the league in points allowed. They have exactly the same formula that the Eagles have. Yeah. They shut down teams, they run the ball, and they limit the opportunities for the quarterback to make mistakes.
And Sal, you just talked about it a minute ago, that they have a quarterback who's the biggest secret, the best kept secret of the NFL, because the Chargers might be behind Arizona, the most anonymous team in the NFL, because nobody knows what they're even out there. And yet that kid has an absolute howitzer for an arm. And he's a very heady quarterback too. So that Chargers might be an excellent dark horse.
I remember coming on your show right after I saw Justin Herbert for the first time, Chargers at Ravens. And I'm up in the press box, and Ozzie Newsome comes by, and he goes, "What are you doing up here?" I said, "I'm going to have a hot dog." He said, "No, you're not." So go down in the field and watch Justin Herbert warm up. So I go down the field, down the elevator with the Hall of Famer, Ozzie Newsome. We go out on the field. He doesn't say a word to me. I say one word, and I can't say it on this show. I have never seen an arm, you correctly to call it. It's a howitzer, Pat.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. That arm, the accuracy. The ball spins so tight, it makes a sound from 30 yards away.
Yeah.
But, I liken it to Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck was overused early on in his career. And he took a beating as a result. As you remember, he set the rookie record for most pass attempts with 607 as a rookie.
Right.
And they overused him with the Chargers, and that's why Herbert has steadily declined. And now Harbaugh brought the Michigan system over. We're going to play defense. He brought his defensive coordinator. We're going to run the ball. He said what he was going to do, and he's doing it. And we're going to limit the mistakes of the quarterback.
There you go. All right, Sal, what's on the matchup show this weekend? What can everybody look forward to?
We are going to feature your Los Angeles Rams, Pat Callahan.
Thanks.
So tune in, Pat Callahan.
I'll do that.
Listen, it's all about what you said. It's the matchup. Yeah. It's Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp against Darius Slay and the Q zone, the Q factor.
You better
Mitchell.
You better copyright that, Sal. You better get the hell out and copyright that fast.
I could do the music, but then of course, Jacob Media would have to pay a fee if I started humming the song. I won't do that to Xander and company.
All right, Sal. Thanks a lot for joining me. Appreciate it. We will look forward to the matchup show this weekend and look forward to talking to you again. Don't forget, you're joining me Tuesday next week. We'll talk some Thanksgiving football. I know you're pumped for Tommy DeVito versus Cooper Rush.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't I be? I get to go home, sit on my couch. Somebody's going to bring me food and watch football. For me, I don't get on an airplane. I don't have to go to a stadium.
Nice.
That's a big win for me, Pat.
Big W. Sal, thanks very much for joining me, Sal. Appreciate it. Talk to you next Tuesday. All right. Sal Paolantonio joining me there. When we get back, my arch nemesis, Bill Reinhard, is going to join me. I'm going to do nothing but scream at him for 15 straight minutes because my fantasy team has collapsed and it's unacceptable. And Bill will explain why next on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Park Bank.
Welcome to Park Bank, a return to better banking. With 7 locations across Philadelphia and South Jersey, we prioritize your financial well-being with a blend of modern amenities and traditional customer service. Our professional team is dedicated to providing tailored banking solutions, whether you are opening your first account, planning for retirement, or expanding your business. Our services include a wide range of personal and business banking options with competitive deposit rates and products. We are committed to making your banking experience seamless and efficient with the latest technology at your fingertips and the personalized support you deserve. Park Bank, your community. For more information, go to parkbank.com. That's Park, P-A-R-K-E, bank.com. Member FDIC. Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated is the concrete cutting specialist in the Philadelphia area since 1995. And they've become the specialist in the Pittsburgh area as well. These guys are celebrating 28 years as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. So if you have a project that requires any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition, or interior excavating, call the specialist, Concrete Cutting Systems, located at 2514 Orthodox Street in the heart of Philly. Call them at 215-533-0652. With a fleet of over 70 service trucks, Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated is always ready to service all of your concrete cutting, drilling, and concrete demolition and highway sealing needs. These guys are the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. So don't delay. Call the boys today at 215-533-0652. And be sure to check them out on Facebook and Instagram at CCSINC_Phila or on the web at concretecuttingsystems.net.
All right, back here this week in Pro Football Week number 12, the National Football League here on JAKIB Sports. Give me a follow, please, at TWIPF Pat. You can do that on X. You can even stream on the show here right now if you want to do that, take part in the conversation. And let's welcome this gentleman in, who on X goes by at NFL Fantasy Bill and also works for Fantasy Guru and writes for the New York Daily News. That would be the great Bill Reinhard. Bill, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm very good. Thank you. You're scaring me, though. If you're going to yell at me for 15 minutes, I don't know.
Well, first off, happy birthday. Is it today your birthday?
It is today. And also, it's my twin brother Clark's birthday. Happy birthday, Clark. And my grandson, Cole, it's his birthday, too. So we got a trifecta on November 20th. Thank you.
I imagine it would be your twin brother's birthday. Thanks for breaking that news, Bill.
Hey, there's two of us, Pat. They're two very good-looking guys walking this earth. Do you believe that? That's
great. Well, I'm not going to yell at Clark, okay? But I am going to yell at you because I just don't understand it, Bill. I think I frightened my wife to the point of I think she actually was considering procuring a weapon last week as I sat on my couch and watched the Baltimore Ravens not give the ball to not allow Derrick Henry to touch the ball in the fourth quarter at all, and watch Jordan Love throw another red zone interception.
That was bad.
Justin Jefferson go without a touchdown for the fifth time in 6 weeks. What is going on here, Bill?
Well, first of all of Jefferson's passes were at his feet. It kept bouncing in front of him. So Sam Darnold is in his New York Jets form. That was depressing. Look, Henry, the time of possession for Pittsburgh in that fourth quarter, they had the ball for almost 10 minutes. He did have a catch on their first drive in the fourth quarter. He had a 15-yard catch, called back for 5 yards. There was an illegal man downfield, and then Jackson throws an interception on the next play. And they don't get the ball back till 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the game. So that's Justice Hill time. There's no handing the ball up to Henry. So,
until you go for two, with a minute to go, you're down two, you go for two, and your refrigerator on legs is not even in the game. I just don't get it, Bill. I don't get it.
I can't help you there. You're right.
Yeah.
And look, you scare my wife too when you send me texts that you're so upset during these games.
All right, well, let me see. Look, it's not just me. I'm going to read off a bunch of guys to you, and I want you to tell me whether at this point in the season there's any hope for these guys, because they've all been they were major names in August during drafts, and they are major busts so far this year. Tell me if there's any hope for Deebo Samuel.
50-50. First of all, is he healthy? Is he not healthy? He seems to be trying to play through injuries. It's not working. They're going to Jawan Jennings. They're throwing to Pearsall. He is no longer a wide receiver one in my eyes. He's a struggling wide receiver two.
Justin Jefferson, is he still a wide receiver one? I mean, Sam Darnold is. Forget it. This is the fear. This is the fear when people draft Jefferson.
Jefferson is absolutely still a number one. All you have to do is get it in his general vicinity in the air. You can't bounce pass it to him. If you get it to him in the air, yes, wide receiver one.
Garrett Wilson.
Is Rodgers going to finish the season?
I think he will. I don't think the Jets could go through the embarrassment of benching Rodgers.
If he finishes the season, he's a wide receiver two. He's no longer a one, that's for sure.
Alvin Kamara,
where the heck Taysom Hill? I traded him away to my son who had 1,000 points last weekend. He texted me. Thanks.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns, including a 75-yarder. Oh, my God.
That's a fluke. It's usually Kamara that's getting those points because next week when the Saints are off their bye, Taysom Hill's going to have 6 points. So, yeah, I'm all Kamara still number one.
Jalen Waddle.
Forget it. Throw him away. Jonnu Smith is the new number one wide receiver as a tight end in that offense. If he's available in your league, I wrote about him today in the Daily News. Pick him up, start him every week, set it, and forget it.
Malik Neighbors.
Well, if I'm Tommy DeVito, and we're about the same height, I think he's going to throw to Neighbors early and often. So the jury's out, but they're going to have to throw. You know they're going to be behind. I think Neighbors will be just as good, if not better, than with Daniel Jones.
All right. Well, that's a pretty low bar, but I agree with you there. I think I understand why the Giants did what they did. They simply couldn't play this guy anymore.
Yeah, but why not go with
why not go with
the
Drew
backup?
Lock?
Yeah,
why not go with Drew Lock? I would have gone with Drew Lock. I'm wondering, Bill, if there wasn't another factor that creeped in there. But I can't imagine the coach and general manager would think, let's go lose these games with Tommy DeVito because we'll get a high pick next year. You're not going to be there to pick, guys.
But here's this is from Patrick Leonard of the Daily News, my co-writer.
I have Pat. I have Pat on a lot.
He made a great point that, look, Locke was the number 2 all year. He got all the second team reps. He was the man if anything happens to Jones. And now just because the Giants season's going to hell in a handbasket, they want to get the fan base happy again because you know how teed off they are. They jump over him.
Yeah, I don't like it.
If I'm Locke, I don't go back to the Giants. There's no loyalty there. Absolutely
I don't like
not.
it. And I agree with you. And I'll tell you, Locke is a commodity because there's such a lack of quarterbacks in this league that Drew Lock he'll get a lot of attention.
And Pat, who's to say he wouldn't do well and be the quarterback of the future for the Giants?
I agree. All right, how about CeeDee Lamb?
Did you see that game? Did you see Cooper Rush?
Cooper.
And Lance is not going to be any better. You know what? You have to start him because he's on your team, but he's like a wide receiver 2.5. He's between a 2 and a 3.
Last 2 names. DJ Moore, the Bears.
He's been a mystery. I like him so much. He has good games, bad games. Caleb Williams has been inconsistent, but they do have that new offensive coordinator out there. It's a mystery. I say they're just going to try and run the ball a lot. DJ Moore is going to drop to a wide receiver 2 to me.
And the last one, and you know what, Bill, he seems to do this every year, talking with Bill Reinhard from the New York Daily News and Fantasy Guru, is DK Metcalf. I mean, he usually starts off like 3 touchdowns the first 4 weeks, and he's such a physical presence, and then he just doesn't do anything. He's
always hurt. I mean, I don't know if it's because he's so big and he always has a lot of soft tissue issues. But when he's out there, wide receiver 1. I mean, to me, he's a monster. He's fast. He's got a wingspan like a pterodactyl. So,
I know. It's a shame too, Bill, in some ways, because Geno Smith, please. Geno Smith is Geno Smith. He is, right? He is. And Metcalf with a really, really good quarterback, man, oh man, Metcalf could be, like you're saying, he's another A.J. Brown, really. He might even be a more physically imposing A.J. Brown. You know what I mean?
Another guy who has trouble staying on the field too.
Yeah, I know. All right, let me keep screaming since I'm screaming, Bill, and you're you're kind enough to put up with it. You're the Cincinnati Bengals. You're 4-7. Yeah. And you've just spent the last 3 or 4 years ignoring Joe Mixon at running back. And I say that because I had Mixon, I think, a couple of times the last few years. And he ended up with 12 TDs last year, Bill. But
he did.
But this guy is a really good running back. And Cincinnati didn't value him at all because he gets in the way of them throwing the ball 72 times a game. And now the Bengals are 4-7.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Mixon, Saquon, even Baker Mayfield. Teams just make bad decisions on who to keep and who not to keep.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And it's interesting because Mixon last year, he got like 11 carries a game with Cincinnati, and he didn't miss any time. He played the entire year. A couple of times he had 20 carry games, but for the most part, he had 11, 13 carries. And now with, the Texans, he's getting 25 carries and 3 receptions. They're knocking it out of the park. And because, you have to honor the run, the passing game has been a lot better. Stroud, he's got the sophomore slump, I think, but he'll come around. But Mixon opens up the passing game for them, and they're going to be dangerous. I mean, I don't want the Bills to play them or the Chargers, like Sal said. Those two teams are scaring me right now.
I'll tell you, the Bills, from a fantasy perspective, look at the carries last week. Cook had like 9 carries for, I think, 20 yards.
Yeah.
And 2 touchdowns.
You can't run on Kansas City. And Joe Klecko's texting me saying, watch your blood pressure. I hear you screaming from all the way from my house. It's like, and he knows I was.
I tell you, Bill, that kid is he is such a weapon. It's beyond belief. That kid, and his will to win, talk about Josh Allen, is second to none. And if they can just, but I don't know, Bill, if they've surrounded him yet with enough. I just don't know because they're going to play. He's going to see Patty Mahomes again before this is all over. And I just don't know if they've got enough.
Yeah. And, does Mahomes have enough now? I mean, we don't know that either. Hopkins was pretty invisible last weekend.
He was.
They're doing it together, with Scotch tape and, thumbtacks up in Buffalo. But their defense getting healthier. They're coming back from the bye week. They'll get their middle linebacker back. And, Coleman will be back. Cooper will be healthier. Hopefully Kincaid gets back. Because don't forget, their next game is Sunday night against the 49ers. And if they are not hung over from Kansas City, they're going to have a good game. But that's not an easy game to play. And
no, it's not.
Detroit, too.
But that's interesting now. The fact they got that bye week really is a cure for that hangover. So I think that'll help them out immensely. All right, exactly. Bill Reinhard, you were right last week on Justin Herbert, Geno Smith even. Smith ran for a touchdown. He had a good running day for Seattle. Give me a couple names this week that you're interested in throwing out there with 6 teams on the bye.
Yeah, I know. I have Josh Allen on both my teams, obviously. So I had Daniel Jones as my backup for this game. So I went out and I picked up Tommy Cutlets. And look, I'm kind of conceding the game. I don't think I'm going to win this week. I'm going to enjoy watching this kid, the Paisano, throw there at the Meadowlands against one of the worst secondaries in the NFL in the Buccaneers. So, look, go for it. Do not start. Don't pick up Anthony Richardson against Detroit and think he's going to get you 3 touchdowns again. That's not happening. Detroit doesn't give up touchdowns to quarterbacks. So stay away from that. On the other side of the Giant game, I like Bucky Irving at running back. He had 17 points against the 49ers and 17 points against the Ravens. If he can do that against them, he'll do that or more against the Giants. And then Nick Westbrook-Akina, which these names are too hard for me to pronounce, Pat. I mean, I miss the days of Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce. So I'm going to call him just Little Nicky for this little segment here. Right. Little Nicky has scored in 5 out of his last 6 games. And ordinarily, I would say he cannot keep that pace up. But he's going against the Texans. You can't run on the Texans. You can only throw on them. And Texans have given up multiple touchdowns in 8 of their last 10 games. So let's play the law of averages here. And I say that Little Nicky gets a touchdown this week. So those are my 3 starts.
I appreciate that. One last one. I got a viewer here who puts a post out. Let me see. Where the hell is it? Dallas Goedert or K. Dot?
Here's the thing. K. Dotton's been amazing. The Giants do one thing well on defense, and that's they cover tight ends really well. That said, I still go with K. Dotton. I still go with Otten. Goddard is a dinosaur.
I think Goddard's going to have a big day, especially if Devonta Smith is not in there for Philadelphia. So saying your football.
You want him to have a good day, so do I. So, go Birds.
All right, Bill Reinhard, where does everybody find you? Where can I find you so I can continue to reach new decibels as my team tanks?
On X, it's NFL Fantasy Bill, and my column for the New York Daily News comes out tomorrow with my starts and sits. And then my column for the Fantasy Guru comes out as well. And I pick all the turkeys that were drafted this year in fantasy football, all the way from Nick Chubb to CMC to Sam Laporta John. So because of his crappy play, I've given him a new nickname. So there you have it, Pat.
Well done. Bill Reinhard, presented by the good folks at Fantasy Guru. Bill, appreciate it. And don't forget, you're joining me Tuesday next week. We can preview those. We can preview that Tommy DeVito Cooper Rush game, which has got the whole nation swept up. So appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Pat.
Have a good birthday. All right.
Thank you. Go Bills.
All right. Bill Reinhard joining me. When we get back, Sean Green is going to join me. I am going to ask Sean Green, if I plunk down $100 now, how much could I win if I bet on a Dallas-Philly NFC title game and a Buffalo-Kansas City AFC title game? We'll do that next on Week 12 edition of This Week in Pro Football.
What on earth are you doing? We have dinner reservations in 15 minutes.
I'm trying to figure out who to start in my fantasy football lineup. Every website I check has a different opinion. It's driving me crazy. How do you set your lineup so fast?
I have a secret weapon that will blow your mind.
Wow. What's the secret?
I've been using fantasyguru.com for all of my fantasy football decisions.
Fantasyguru.com? Isn't that with that crazy guy, Jeff Mans?
You mean the legendary fantasy guru, Jeff Mans? He's a genius. Fantasyguru.com has everything you need to dominate your league. Starts, sits, busts. It's like having a fantasy football expert panel in your corner.
Wow, fantasyguru.com. But I feel like you're cheating on me.
How do you think I won our league last year? Fantasyguru.com. It'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Join fantasyguru.com today. Use the code NEW30 for 30% off instant savings.
Evolution Energy Partners has helped hundreds of businesses save millions of dollars on their energy spend. They offer electricity and gas procurement strategies, efficiency audits and engineering and financing solutions, as well as online utility bill management. To learn how your business can save, visit www.evolutionep.com or contact Chuck Herschella at 610-329-8288. Evolution Energy Partners, energy solutions to improve your bottom line.
At Whistler Pearlstein LLP, we assemble the most effective team to handle all of your legal needs. There are players and pretenders, but our hustle and heart set us apart. In practice now for over 75 years, we're proud to be one of the most prominent full-service law firms in the Philadelphia region. We offer 17 different areas of practice, including business, corporate, and tax education law, real estate, zoning, and land development, municipal law, and litigation. Our top-rated attorneys and staff are laser-focused on client success. We strive to provide outstanding legal counsel with the highest level of care and consideration. Let us show you the Whistler way. Learn more at WhistlerPearlstein.com or email Michael J. O'Donohue at mod@WhisPearl.com. WhistlerPearlstein.com or mod@WhisPearl.com.
Right, back here this week in pro football on JAKIB Sports. Let's bring this guy up here, Xander, please. That would be the host, the author of the Sports Gambling Podcast, and that would be the excellent Sean Green. Sean, how you doing?
Doing great. Yeah, it's Rams week, rivalry week. Are you worried, Pat?
Rivalry week. No, I'm not worried because I don't see how the Eagles lose this game, and we will talk about that. I want to get your take, obviously, which is in terms of odds, and now it's probably no doubt superior to mine. But I want to start with this. This just struck me. I was just talking with Bill Reinhard, my fantasy guy, about and he was about how the Giants bypassed Drew Lock and went to Tommy DeVito as their starter. And quarterbacks, and it's like here, Sean, is a list of the NFL quarterback draft class of 2022.
Oh yeah,
Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, Malik Willis, Matt Carl, never even heard of him, Bailey Zappi, Slingin' Sammy Howell, Chris Aladakun, Skylar Thompson, Brock Purdy. I mean, that just speaks to, that's why a guy like Daniel Jones gets a $40+ million contract off of one game, because teams, they just can't afford to pass on anybody who looks good.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a seller's market if you're a quarterback, right? Because to your point, Daniel Jones had one good year. They beat the Vikings in the playoffs, and as crazy as it sounds, that one playoff win may have set the Giants back like 4 years because they, convince themselves to pay Daniel Jones, convince themselves to stick it out with Brian Dable, and now it just keeps looking worse and worse. Not only that you paid him, but that this could have been, imagine he had a really bad year. They don't get to the playoffs. He doesn't get that win. They already would have drafted a quarterback. Maybe they got lucky. People say I'm crazy, but I think if you need a quarterback and you're drafting in the first round, draft a quarterback. Yeah. It's a crapshoot at best. Even when you're drafting high, maybe you get lucky with a Brock Purdy. Everyone was hating on the Bo Nix pick. That seems to be paying off somewhat dividends. We'll see how long it lasts, but I think you always draft a quarterback. It's the cheat code in the NFL, having a competent rookie quarterback having a competent quarterback on a rookie contract.
On a 4-year rookie contract. You're certainly right. And the Giants, it's a shame. It's just a shame, really. The Giants have to now blow it all up for the nth time, as will the Jets, because Aaron Rodgers is clearly not the answer to whatever the Jets are doing.
That's the other thing too. The Jets, they tried to draft a quarterback, didn't work. Zach Wilson, all right, we'll trade for one. This'll work. Now they're 0 for 2. Did you read the article about Woody Johnson wanted to bench Rodgers
after week 4? And this is the Jets team that did it twice, Sean. Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson, they whiffed both times because the real Sam Darnold is back, by the way, in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever alien that was, the first half dozen games, he's gone. But the Jets, it's a shame. New York football, what a state New York City football is in, Sean. But Philadelphia football is in pretty good shape. 8-2. The Eagles start this year. I was talking with Sal Paolantonio about the fact the last 2 years they were 9-1. So I think it's about time to give little Nick is due here.
Yeah, no, my buddies in my group chat, they had their pitchforks out. They were ready to run him out of town. I think part of it is if you were just out, and there were people in the Philly area, they were out on Sirianni from that first press conference, from the Flowers speech, even getting to the Super Bowl and playing a damn good game against the Kansas City Chiefs. People were still skeptical. So then when they hit the wall and they started falling apart, I knew it. This guy's a bum. He's a JV high school coach. But meanwhile, the guy wins a ton of games. Do I get mad at him with some of the decision-making? Of course. Is he frustrating game management-wise? Of course. But at the end of the day, these guys clearly play for him. And, things fell apart last year, but they hit a wall early here, and look at how much better they're playing after the bye. To me, that's a sign of good coaching. If you come out looking like a much better team after the bye week, injuries were a part of it, but at some point you got to give someone credit on the coaching staff, and Nick, I think, deserves a couple flowers. I know he likes this.
All right, talking with Sean Green here from the Sports Gambling Podcast. And Sean, this to me, if I may be so impertinent, is my lock of the year. The Eagles – right now, Sean, they're only getting the 3 points that you get as the home team because the Eagles will be the home team Sunday at SoFi. And I think they are far superior to the Rams on both sides of the ball, but they're only a 3-point favorite. Just give me your take on this game here and tell me where I'm wrong.
Lock of the year. I think if you're making a case for the Rams, it's this Rams team is very desperate. Every game is essentially kind of a playoff game for this Rams team as they fight in their playoff lives. If you're not a believer in Nick Sirianni, you're looking towards the coaching edge you might have with Sean McVay over Nick Sirianni. Yeah, as far as reasons why I like the Eagles, and I do think this is a pretty good spot for them. They have to travel to the West Coast, but as you point out, the Eagles will have the crowd. I will be one of the people in attendance, got some nice seats, so going to be screaming my heart out. And if you remember last year, Jalen Carter said the crowd noise forced the Rams to go on a silent count, and they were able to time up the snap count, and Jalen Carter had one of his better games, 2 sacks. Now you look at this Eagles secondary. This Eagles secondary is playing really, really well. They did a good job slowing down Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin. Quinyon Mitchell has just been awesome. He's a rookie playing at like a Pro Bowl level right now, which is kind of crazy for the quarterback position. And I think that this could be like a fun Hurts scrambling game. You saw what Drake May was able to do against the Rams. I think the main reason to like the Eagles is a lot of the stuff the Rams do well, their receivers, their defensive line. I think the Eagles have solid answers to those. Now, the way they win this game is, Matt Stafford balls out, Hurts turns the ball over, and you get the W that way. But, I like the Eagles' chances.
Nah. That Monday night game against Miami, there's no bigger Ram fan than me in this but that Monday night game against Miami, all I needed to know. I just can't see the Eagles losing this game. Cannot see it, Sean. So that's that. Okay, that's that.
Confidence. I like your confidence.
And I hope you paid a fortune for those tickets.
I did, unfortunately.
That's one of the reasons why the Rams never have a home field advantage. The ticket prices there are my brother, he lives out there. They're beyond ridiculous to go to a Rams game, and so you don't go. That's what happens.
Yeah, they got to. In general, you could say that they got to make it more affordable for the average fan. It's like, hey, NFL, we'll buy all the jerseys, the Sunday tickets, whatever you're getting us for, get us. Right. But the live product is always better when it's a packed house full of home fans. Yeah. Make it, cut out a little break on the ticket prices. You'll get your money. I'll buy some beers and a hot dog.
All right, give me some props in this game that you like, Sean.
Yeah, no, I kind of alluded to it, but I do think this could be a Hurts rushing game. I keep mentioning it every week, but Jalen Hurts to score a rushing touchdown is
that shouldn't even be allowed. That should be like 900. That should be like 1 to 850. That's ridiculous.
No, it's one of those funny ones because especially post bye, he's done it every game. He's had multiple touchdown games. And Saquon Barkley, if you draft him in fantasy, it's been a great year, but also Saquon leads the league in getting tackled at the 1 or the 2, which has just been making it.
That's it.
Which has just been making it awesome for the. One other one I will toss out: AJ Brown to get a touchdown. You can get that around plus 120. I think he has it.
I think Brown has a big night. Especially, of course, if Devonta Smith doesn't go. All right, let's look around the league here a little bit. Sean Green. Another game I'm interested in will take place in the same stadium. The Baltimore Ravens, who have decided, I guess they're going to cut Derrick Henry maybe before the game because why use a guy like that? They go to LA. That team is I said to Sal Pao, is as anonymous as they come. That Chargers team, and no one knows anything about them. Now they got a big spotlight here. Of course, they played Cincinnati on Sunday night, but this is the Ravens. Tell me what you think of this game, where Baltimore is a 3-point favorite against the Chargers.
Yeah, this one, it would be a lot easier to handicap this game if the Ravens hadn't have lost there against the Steelers, because that, to me, is like the one reason I do like the Ravens is them coming off a loss. But on the other side, there's a ton of reasons to like the Los Angeles Chargers. it just starts with the eye test. I watch a ton of Chargers football, and man, they're just a well-coached team. It's like, Harbaugh really made a difference, and then Herbert has looked really sharp. I know he kind of hit a little bit of a wall in that Bengals game, but, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson was considered a bust. All he needed was some positive reinforcement. All of a sudden, he's looking great. Will Dissly. All these guys, you look at hey, you had the fantasy guy. No one was drafting any Chargers this season, and now their offense is getting going. And I think the key to whether or not you bet on Lamar Jackson is, do you have the history? Do you know how to play Lamar Jackson, right? And one of the reasons I liked the Steelers a lot last week, one of my locks on the podcast was, hey, this Steelers team, Tomlin, they know how to prepare for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, there's always that stats of how well he does against NFC teams because they don't know how to play him. They haven't kind of figured out what the game plan is. And I think, one, the Chargers did play the Ravens last year, held the Ravens to 20 points, but two, the fact that they have Greg Roman, the former Ravens offensive coordinator, who really got the most out of Lamar Jackson, the fact that they have him on their side now, I think you got to take the Chargers as a home dog. This should be a great game. Yeah. And again, I'm a little scared of fading the Chargers or the Ravens off a loss, but I think this is the Chargers here.
All right. The other game I wanted to get your opinion on, Sean, here. was two teams that I think, I don't know, that the Packers' record is still strong. I mean, as far as the standings are concerned, Green Bay continues to win against whoever they put up against them. I think the Packers are 7-3, but I don't like them. But they play a 49er team, Sean, that's playing worse than they are and comes off a home loss against Seattle. Who do you like here? Green Bay, a 2-point favorite at home against San Francisco.
Always give me the tough ones, Pat. But, this is why I host the Sports Gambling Podcast, because I'm with you. Like, these are both two teams I was looking to fade. Unfortunately, sometimes the teams you both want to fade are playing each other. One of these teams has to get a win here. I think I'm going to be going with the Packers here, laying the 2. The injury concerns to me are kind of the deciding factor. I mean, Bosa tried to gut it out and play last week. That hip injury, which he described as the most painful thing he's ever dealt with, that's really tough. It does sound like Kittle is going to go. But again, he's not 100%. He's dealing with a hamstring. And then Brock Purdy, who's been turning into a guy who runs the ball a bunch. He got knocked around last week, and now he's dealing with throwing shoulder soreness. So I just can't take a guy with throwing shoulder soreness going on the road to Lambeau. Now, if you're talking yourself into the 49ers, 49ers off a loss. Maybe the Packers are looking ahead to Thanksgiving a little bit, but the more I look at this game, the more I break it down. I just can't take this 49ers team as banged up as they are on the road. So I got to go Packers.
All right. Well, I'm about to talk to Greg Meacham, who covers the Rams for the Associated Press in Los Angeles. And that NFC West, boy, what a jumble that is. It'll be interesting to get Greg's take on that. That is a division that I think only one team is coming out of. And who knows who the hell it's going to be right now.
Yeah.
All right, Sean Green, where does everybody find you this weekend on Visit, I guess?
Yeah, VSiN, if you're watching on Friday night, 11 o'clock East, or Sports Gambling Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, just type in Sports Gambling Podcast. Can't miss us. And then, I'll be behind the goalposts on Sunday afternoon or Sunday night for Rams Eagles. So
I know.
You're rocking the Reggie White jersey. I'll be holding up a high Pat sign.
Yeah, you won't be easy to pick out of the 61,000 Eagle fans that'll be there, but we'll do our best. All right, Sean, thanks a lot for joining me, pal. And don't forget, Tuesday next week, I want to grab you for Tommy DeVito versus Cooper Rush. All right, pal?
All right. Take it easy, Pat.
All right, Sean Green joining me there. And when we get back, as I've been teasing here, Greg Meacham from the Associated Press in Southern California is going to join me. We're going to talk about the Rams side of what is a very important game for both teams to finish up a Week 12 edition of This Week in Pro Football.
Somewhere on the blue planet lies a hidden gem, nestled in the heart of lush greenery. Where the game of golf takes on a new meaning. At Spring Mill Country Club, we offer an unparalleled golfing experience. Our meticulously maintained course is designed to challenge and delight golfers of all levels. But that's not all. Spring Mill is also the perfect venue for your most cherished celebrations. From intimate gatherings to grand weddings, our elegant banquet facilities provide the perfect backdrop for your special day. With exquisite cuisine, personalized service, and breathtaking surroundings, every event at Spring Mill becomes a cherished memory. Let us be a part of your journey, whether it's a round of golf, a celebration, or a once-in-a-lifetime wedding. Spring Mill Country Club, where every moment is extraordinary. Visit us today and create your unforgettable story.
Welcome back. We've got another exciting play underway at KennedyAuto.com.
That's right. At KennedyAuto.com, you can browse their entire inventory from home.
The customer is scrolling hundreds of Ford, Mazda, and Subaru vehicles right at his fingertips.
He made his selection and got a bottom line price set directly to his email. He could go all the way.
And the deal is good, all without leaving his couch. Incredible. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Johnny Apple's restaurant and bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Welcome back here, a Week 12 edition of This Week in Pro Football on JAKIB Sports. Don't forget to give me a follow at TWIPF Pat on X. And you can follow this guy at Greg Meacham, who covers the Rams and the Chargers for the Associated Press in Southern California. Greg, welcome to This Week in Pro Football here in Philadelphia.
Hey, Pat, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you very much, Greg, for taking the time. I know that we got a 3-hour time difference here, but thanks again for carving it out here. And what is a very big game, Greg. The Rams, though, they've just been so uneven. And you're talking to I'll admit, I started following the Rams in 1967. So there's not much about this team I don't know,
wow.
regrettably, because they drive you crazy. But this year in particular, Greg, 5-5, completely inconsistent in their coach's own words. What's the outlook in the locker room right now for a Rams team that in 2 of the next 3 weeks is going to play Philadelphia and Buffalo?
There's still a lot of optimism in the locker room because they know what they can be when they have enough healthy guys and can execute the things they really want to do. They have some decent wins on their resume, and they've shown that they're a team that can contend with a lot of teams. Having said that, like you said, the inconsistency that has propped up over and over again has held them back, has put them at a 500.
Right.
And it's hard to predict what's going to happen because they got Philly, they've got New Orleans, and they got Buffalo. They've got 2 of the best teams in the NFL in the next 3 games. So it's going to be really hard to come out of either one of those with a win. And after that, they'll see what they can do down the stretch. But it's a difficult part of the schedule for them for sure.
It is. I was just lamenting with Sean Green in my previous segment about how Matt Stafford, the whole offense against Miami was just so vexing, the way they performed in that game. And then a week later, 4 touchdown passes, including some real beauties from Stafford, and the Rams put up 28 against New England. What can a team do to try and smooth that out, Greg? Like, what does this team do, especially with a team like the Eagles coming in ranked number 1 in yards per game allowed defensively?
I feel like the biggest problem with this offense has been the inability to establish a running game week in, week out. Part of that, you can divide this season into 2 5-game segments. The first 5 where they didn't have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua or had very little contribution for them, and then the second half where the last 4 games they've had both of those guys. They've been unable to establish a running game, which has set up everything else in a really bad way. I think Kyron Williams is still a really good running back. His yard per carry is down from 5.0 to 3.9 this year, and part of that is the fact that this all adds up. They've been a really poor first half team, a first quarter team. They've fallen behind in pretty much all of their games. They've been playing from behind. Then you don't run the ball as much. So. Right. All those things add up to putting pressure on Matthew Stafford to make plays down the field, putting pressure on receivers to get open, all those things. And so they've been playing behind so much that it's really tough to really know what they can do with a full complement of players. Now that they have that, except for the Miami game, like you were talking about, they've looked pretty good. They've been able to move the ball. Stafford's been really good in the air. And even Kyron's got going a little bit. Last week, he had a pretty good running game. So if they can continue that, they can do some things. Playing against Philly is not the time to do that, obviously. So.
I know. Well, it's interesting, Greg, because, as you just mentioned, 15 for 86 last week for Kyron Williams. That's not too bad. But McVay is like all of his coaching tree. It's pass first and ask questions later. Right. This week, though, talking about the Rams when they have the ball, Greg, I was just talking with earlier. I had Sal Powell on the show. We were talking about Nacua and Kupp against a real strength of the Eagles, Darius Slay and Quinyon Mitchell. How do you see it?
It's going to be really fun. I actually highlighted that as something I'm going to write about tomorrow. So we get both the receivers talking on Thursday. So it's going to be a gourmet matchup. I really look forward to it in terms of like those are two guys who, the football I've covered over the years, it's hard to think of two guys that work better as a duo than those two in terms of complementing each other's skill sets, knowing when to do things when the other one's not available. And Stafford does a great job of picking both of them out. Having said that, between Slay and Mitchell, it's really tough to get anybody open against those. We saw what they did to Terry McLaurin last week. It's really impressive. And so, it's strength on strength. And I think that's really fun when football games are strength on strength. So in general, it's going to be great.
It's fair to say, I guess, Craig, though, that if the Rams do not win that matchup, I think they have no chance of winning this game if they don't win that matchup. When the Eagles have the ball, tell me what you think here. The Rams' strength now appears to be their defensive line, which is one of the youngest probably in the NFL, and yet they have really come on very quickly. Their back seven, however, especially their linebacking core, the linebacking is something the Rams have really never invested in. How much risk does that pose against Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and A.J. Brown?
Oh, a lot. I mean, it's really tough for this team to contain, dynamic offenses over a full 60 minutes. They are basically rebuilding from the ground up. They've got that young, exciting defensive line. It's really good. It's really fun. But like you said, the back seven is not as impressive. They don't care about middle linebacker, like you said. They let Ernest Jones go for a bag of chips.
Right?
Yeah, just for nothing, just because he wanted a contract. And they're like, oh no, not only can you not have a contract, you have to leave. So that's how much they value. That's how much they value.
That's very subtle. Yeah.
But they do have some playmakers on the back end. Darius Williams is having a good season at cornerback. Cameron Kinchins, their rookie safety, has been the defensive player of the week 2 of the last 3 weeks. Part of that's just being in the right place when people throw the ball to you, but it's also growing and maturing and becoming a really good safety. So got a lot of good young players. The Eagles have a lot of good veteran players, and that's the difference.
Yeah, that's right. Now, that's an interesting way to put it in a game Sunday night, Greg. I lament this as a Ram fan. I lived my whole life in Philadelphia, and there's few better home field advantages than the Eagles enjoy at Lincoln Financial Field, where it's a one full-throated 65,000 Eagle fans, and yet the Rams and the Chargers. I was just talking with Sean Green about. They basically. It's fair to say, I would guess, Greg, the Rams play probably 12 road games a year, and this is one of them. How much does that affect the team, do you think, the fact that stadium will be at least 50% Eagle fans Sunday night?
Doesn't really affect the Rams that much. I know it looks bad on TV and it sounds bad. They're used to it. I mean, every NFL team has to play road games. It's just a question whether you play, like you said, whether you play 8 or 9 or whether you play 12 or 13, So right. It's the price of doing business. It's the price of moving franchises. It's the price of going 21 years without an NFL team in town. There's nothing that anybody can do about it except watch the clock, watch the calendar change year over year. And young people growing up with the Rams right now become Rams fans and get money and they buy tickets. That's all you can do about it. So.
It's funny, though, and they're not the only one. And it is true. I think the worst home field advantage in the NFL might be in Las Vegas. Because let's face it, Greg, nobody is from Las Vegas, right?
No,
absolutely. You got to feel really bad for the Raiders because that's a destination. That's a travel destination anyway. So why not link it up with your football team playing there? It's funny. You're right. There's a handful of teams. Arizona, I think you could throw in, too, who don't have much of a home field advantage at all.
Yeah, the NFL is just another Vegas show in Vegas. Whether you're going to go to Cirque du Soleil or you're going to go see the Raider game. It's like that's what they've turned it into, and that's fine. Everybody likes that. So it's not going to get any better for them. Whereas with LA, I think LA has great sports fans, but you have to earn it from them. Lakers and Dodgers win championships, be here for a long time. That kind of thing.
That helps. All right, Greg Meacham from the Associated Press. Tell me your thoughts on this NFC West. It's crazy right now. Arizona at 6-4, Seattle and the Rams 5-5. San Francisco is now down to, I think they're 5. I think they're 5-5 too. Who's going to poke their head up at the end of the season here, Greg? Do you think that? First off, do you agree with me that there's one team making the playoffs out of this division, and who do you think it's going to be?
I would think probably one team, yeah. I have trouble betting against the Niners until they actually flop. They've had so many good years, so many good players on that team, so many guys. Could be their last time together. You really don't know. I just feel like until they really take a dive, I'm not going to believe that they're not going to make it. I'm impressed by the Cardinals. I think the Rams have the pieces there to be good in a year or two. And Sean McVay's always had a history of delivering ahead of schedule. Having said that, if I had to pick one team, I'm sticking with the Niners. I know it's a safe bet, but I also I really like their talent, and I really like Shanahan as a coach.
Yeah, so. It's hard really to to pin down. I know they've had some injuries, but what team hasn't? Like you mentioned, the Rams lost their 2 starting receivers and 3/5 of their offensive line in week 1. So, exactly. I mean, I have no pity for the 49ers, but there just seems to me, Greg, there's something missing in that locker room right now. And I don't know if the Niners are going to be able to pull this off. That's going to be one really serious race in the entire way in the NFC West.
Yeah, the vibes have to be really weird in San Francisco, considering how long they've been together and how close they've been to winning it all, haven't done it, and they don't know how much longer this is going to last. Must be a very much, feeling of this might be our last dance, so we got to get it going. That can be a good thing. It can also be a bad thing in terms of getting people nervous, and maybe making personnel decisions in a different way than you might otherwise. I don't know what's going to happen, but I still bet on them. But it's fascinating to watch them, see if they can make it through the season without catching on fire.
All right, Greg Meacham, give me your thoughts on Sunday night. Do you see the Rams with a puncher's chance to win this game here, and how do you think this game plays out?
I guess they'd have a shot. It's just hard to bet against. The Eagles look so good right now, and the primetime stage, all that kind of stuff. I guess they have a shot if they can go crazy in the passing game, if they can figure out, if Sean McVay can figure out ways to get these guys open, and Matthew Stafford has a great game, maybe they can score with the Eagles. I don't know. The Eagles have a great defense, but it's anybody can score in the NFL. So I don't know that they have enough to do a 60-minute game, to keep up for 60 minutes with the Eagles. Right. So I think they have a shot, but I would definitely not bet on the Rams to win this football game.
That'll be interesting. You could get there late, Greg, if you're stuck in traffic. I think they're the 2 worst teams in the NFL in first quarter offense. I mean, it's amazing. So chances are nothing after 1, but it's a huge game for both. It's a huge game for Philly if they want to try and catch Detroit for that 1 seed, which is vital. Yeah. It's a huge game for the Rams because they just can't afford to lose a conference game right now. And I think the Eagles better be prepared for a maximum effort by Los Angeles on Sunday night.
Yeah, I know Sean McVay's really up for this game. Talking to him just earlier today, he was very excited about everything that the Eagles have put together. You remember last year's game, which was a competitive game, but the Rams never really felt like they got it. Right. He never really felt like he got it going in the second half. They didn't reach the end zone. Just it was all kinds of things coming together, and you got the impression today talking to Sean McVay that he's like, this is a really cool challenge, and I like challenges. So he may have a little something extra cooked up. I don't know, but he's definitely gonna try, and this is something that means a lot to him as a competitor. So this game is circled on the calendar for the Rams.
I'd rather play Jacksonville, Greg. I don't know. I think that's the way I'd look at it. I'd rather play Jacksonville, but they don't get to choose that. Well, listen, Greg Meacham, thanks a lot for taking the time, Greg, on such short notice too. It was a great discussion with you, and I wish you all the best out there. All right.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it.
All right. Greg Meacham joining me there from the Associated Press in Southern California. That'll do it for this edition of This Week in Pro Football. Don't forget, we're premiering on Wednesday nights now for the rest of the season. And next week, Thanksgiving will be on Tuesday night. So please check that out as we preview Thanksgiving Day, and then the NFL season just rolls along. I think Philadelphia wins comfortably Sunday night. We'll see we'll see how that plays out. But enjoy the Sunday night football. Packers and 49ers is the late game Sunday. It should be a good game, pretty even game. And then Monday night is Ravens and Chargers. I think that will be a very competitive game too. All right. Enjoy all the football. Thanks very much to Xander Krause for producing. Thanks to all my guests for joining me, and thank you for viewing. We'll be back next week on This Week in Pro Football.